In 2005, I was a brand new employee with the Rock Church as their construction manager. I was a brand new Christian in my walk and had just started a new job with a new way of life and a new way of looking at life. And I met Chuck. And soon after I started, Chuck was the executive pastor at the Rock Church. And he just very casually mentioned one day in the hallway, "Hey, any interest in going on a mission trip?" And right off the cuff, it was like, no way. I mean, a mission trip for me at that point in my life was like the second to last thing in the world I'd ever want to do. And I think it only preceded wrestling alligators at that point. And so I just blew it off. And he just, in Chuck's way, he just shook his head and went, "Okay." You know, he didn't say too much more about it, but he continued to kind of have meetings and planning sessions for the trip. And I was, for whatever reason, I was always in the room or somewhere around when those sessions were kind of happening. And the next thing you know, fast forward, I'm sitting in the office of the missions coordinator writing my check to go to Africa. So I don't know to this day exactly how it happened, but it was certainly a turning point for me because what I experienced there, not only seeing, but what I allowed to be experienced with me in my walk was basically turbocharged my walk with Christ. Africa's a tough place, and to be a new Christian, and we were going there to do church planning. So I had to go home and Google what church planning was, because I thought it was building. And so I was also told that we were going to have to share the gospel. And so I went home and Googled what the gospel was and tried to memorize exactly what I was supposed to say. And on that particular trip, we went to Sudan. And just the daily, what God allowed me to see on a daily basis just completely blew me away. And I don't think a year has gone by since 2005 that I have not gone on a mission trip. And some years there have been several. And I've even led mission trips. So it's definitely become a way of life. And to be honest, selfishly, it's a way of life because it provides me the opportunity to reset. I get so tied up in our culture in the States and what's important, and leaving the country and walking with God on a mission trip allows you to really see what's really important and allows you to really see and hear from God. And so, to be honest, that's the reason I go, and will continue to go. So, everyone always says they don't have time to go on a trip. That, I would love to go on a trip, but I'm too busy. My kids are in school, and when you think about it, there's never enough time. There's never enough time, and you can always put something ahead of it. And my suggestion to them would be, write your letters, get your support, and let God do the rest. And if He wants you to go on a trip, you'll get support, and the date will be on the calendar, and you'll go. But it's never a good time. And for me, and I've told Chuck this, going on a trip is usually the best and the worst week or 2 weeks of my year. Because you really do. It stresses you out. You're worried about what's going on at work. You're worried about what you're going to eat. You're worried about where you're going to sleep. You're worried about all the creature comforts that we've come accustomed to. And you don't want to give those comforts up. But I guess in my experience, that's when the good stuff starts to happen. The minute you start to get uncomfortable, God shows up.
Sidebars. we're a day or two before we leave. And I don't remember if Bob called me or if we were talking, but Bob basically was saying, I don't want to go. I want to back out. You keep my money, whatever you got to do, but don't make me come on this trip. And so as we kind of unpacked this, he was very uncomfortable about sharing his faith. And so I said, okay, let's just say this, you don't have to share the gospel. Okay, well, I'm feeling a little better about that. And I made him a promise, which at the time, and I've made this promise before, that I said, Bob, go on this trip, and God's going to show up. I don't know how. I don't know when, but in your life, some way, somehow, you'll find meaning and purpose in this. Well, Bob ends up going from the guy who says, I don't want to evangelize, to be the guy on the team who witnessed to and saw more people come to faith than anyone else there. Prayed for a baby that was sick, and the next day the baby's well. And you just see on these front lines of the missions experience, the hand of God at work, just in a miraculous way. And what you think you can't or won't do, you find yourself doing that very thing in the service of some of the least of the people on the planet.
You said you've done everything in the book of Acts except raise somebody from the dead.
Pretty well lived it in 5 days. We were riding in an airplane with the pilots doing crossword puzzles. The lady that sold us the ticket who loaded the baggage is sitting in the co-pilot seat. You don't know if she's got a license or not. She's just riding and she's up there doing crosswords.
This little bush plane. It's like, we can see you.